also responsible for their own demise? You know, are they restless on the other side, or are they angry because their lives were taken from them? Thank you so much, Amanda Jourdain, for this week's Just Ask Jay question. I absolutely loved it. You know, Amanda wrote, my daughter and I were discussing spirits and the afterlife this morning, and we discussed that each soul, prior to coming here, you know, makes its plan. Through suicide, souls who broke their contracts have to learn lessons when it's sudden deaths or illnesses, and she goes on and on. But what if it was a murder? What if a person was killed by another human? Was this a plan for that soul? Would the soul be upset because their life was taken from them? Thank you so much, Amanda. I'm going to tell you the soul's plan is quite an interesting subject, as you mentioned here. But I'm going to tell you every soul has 5 exits to their life. So in other words, they plan 5 ways of dying. And I'm going to tell you, suicide is not on the how-to list of dying. A little while ago, I had done a vlog on it's grounded spirits, a waiting period for heaven. And I talked about suicides and how they stay grounded because of broken souls agreements. But I believe that murders are different. I believe that it takes a very, very loving agreement to make this kind of, how would I say it, this kind of plan. So it can be on the list of dying. So murder is very, very possible. But I believe that there's a trade-off with souls. In other words, I believe that the person who commits the murder gets to kind of act as a suicide. So they become grounded. So it's the person that commits the act of murder. When they pass away, irregardless of how they pass, whether it's a heart attack, whether it's something else, they stay grounded and they do not go past go until they go through the karmic lesson as to why they shouldn't have committed that act of selfishness. So in other words, the person who's murdered is very surprised, of course didn't plan on being murdered that day, and they probably don't even know the person that murdered them to this side of the fence. But on the other side, we're all connected, and we do make agreements very lovingly, whether we like it or not. Very highly evolved souls will make much more of these types of decisions. But the thing is, if I'm taking a life, I'm going to have to pay for it, not only on this side of the fence, but on the other side. So I would, let's say if I committed a murder, I would be grounded to the other side. I would not be able to go through the light until I stepped in the other person's shoes that I had such an effect on, until I learn the lessons, you know, that I should have. So in other words, there's always a reason for murder, and it's usually not a good intention. So it's a selfish act, a selfish intention. And unless it's an act of self-defense, it's very, very much different. Again, it all has to do with the soul's plans and the soul's agreements. But, you know, if that person who's been murdered now passes away, they may be very surprised. Violent deaths, sudden passings, that kind of thing, all fall under the same category. So they're kind of like grounded a little bit, but not to the point where they won't go through the light. They're just sort of like in sort of like a little waiting period until they realize they've passed, until they've accepted the light, or until another soul comes to bring them through the other side and to save their soul. And so grounded spirits are people that are in between stages like that before they go through to the other side. Don't feel bad about that unless it's a suicide, broken agreement, or it's someone that has murdered someone else. So it's not the person that has been murdered that stays grounded. The person that goes through the light, the person who has been murdered, is never angry. It understands very lovingly why the soul acted selfishly. It understands that that soul will have to pay credit back to, you know, being grounded and having to go through its karmic lessons. So it understands that. So it lets it go. There's no ego to a human once it crosses through to the other side, and you will be able to reference that in crossing over what next, you know, what happens to us after we die and we leave this earthly plane. I want to thank you so much, Amanda. Great question, but you don't have to worry about those who have been murdered. They always cross through to the light. They are not punished. They are not sad. They are not afraid. They are not mad. They don't have a human side to them. And they just love us very, very much, always happy to the other side, even though their lives were cut short. Thank you so much, everybody. If you have a burning desire to ask me a question, but you're too afraid to ask, don't be afraid. Just ask Jay. Until next week, I love you guys all so much. Take care. Bye-bye.